Chapter 3: Team Skills. Leading the high-performance work team. As a supervisor, I am expected to raise the overall performance and results of my department. Getting people to work together, to appreciate each other's skills and knowledge, and to solve problems together is the key to leading a team. Payroll and Benefits Department Supervisor. Terry had been the facility supervisor for a southeastern hospital for 10 years. He was in charge of everything from making sure the electric and gas lines were fully functional in the surgical rooms to seeing that every tiled hallway in the complex was cleaned and waxed weekly. If it had anything to do with something physical, there was a strong chance that Terry knew about it. As the facility continued to grow, Terry realized that more work would have to be accomplished. When he requested to hire additional employees, he was refused and told that he must get the additional work accomplished with his current workforce. As he analyzed his needs, Terry realized something interesting. Each of the departments under his supervision perceived itself as totally independent of all the others. For example, the people in the painting department saw no connection between their focus and the focus of the carpentry department. The electrical department did not perceive the need to interface much with the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning department. Terry had 8 departments, and each was working for its own good and caring little about its impact on other departments. Confronted with a mess, which he as a traditional supervisor had helped to create, Terry determined that the 8 departments needed to act as one. He wanted more teamwork among the departments, each providing help whenever needed and each becoming more knowledgeable about what the other departments did. One of the first things Terry did was to call a meeting of all the departments to inform them that from that point forward, they had to become more team-like in their efforts. To further this effort, Terry had each department make a presentation to the other departments about what it did, what its needs were, and how it could help the other departments. Next, Terry chose a team leader from each department and started holding weekly meetings with these leaders. These meetings allowed all the departments to share their needs and opportunities. After a few months of this give and take, the team leaders recognized the benefit of cross-training people on different jobs. Terry assisted in developing a cross-training matrix that scheduled people to learn new skills and tasks. Although things didn't improve overnight, Terry began to see increased flexibility in attacking facility problems. Because he was developing cross-skilled employees, he was able to move people around as needed to offset higher work demands. When the painting department was finishing up a project, for example, a few of its employees were allowed to assist another department with more pressing needs. By the 6th month, the departments wanted to be called teams rather than departments. The painting department became the paint team, and the HVAC department became the HVAC team. Some teams even came up with their own mascot name. The boiler team was affectionately known as the Hotheads, and the electrical team became the Voltage Eaters. Terry still had plenty of challenges to overcome because he couldn't hire additional employees. However, he saw more energy among his workforce. There was greater cooperation and respect. In fact, at one meeting, a team leader remarked that she and her team were having more fun at work than ever before. This convinced Terry that his decision to build teams and teamwork was the right decision. Teams, the human solution that produces better results. The move towards organizing work teams in the workplace began many years ago. For some organizations, greater employee involvement began in the late 1970s and early 1980s as method of giving job satisfaction to employees who no longer had as many opportunities to move up the company ladder. To compensate for the lack of upward mobility, companies tried to motivate employees to succeed in different ways, de-emphasizing the vertical view of success. Engaging people more in the daily and weekly decision-making process was just one of several strategies tried by organizations. For many organizations, this new horizontal employee strategy involved more frontline employees in the work process, and it soon challenged the more traditional approach in which the supervisor or manager made all of the decisions. Companies that initiated other employee involvement programs, such as quality circles, employee suggestion boxes, or cross-level teams, reinforced this horizontal strategy. Many of these efforts gave employees renewed motivation and hope about the future. Although many organizations flirted with employee involvement efforts, a few began to closely inspect what tapping more employee brainpower might do to better performance and profits. Companies that took employee involvement seriously made a sincere effort not merely to pump up an employee's ego, but also to provide employees with the education and training they needed to make a greater impact on performance. Frontline employees began receiving formal education and training in areas that even many supervisors had not received as part of their initial learning experience. As the employee involvement process continued, it soon became apparent that what employees needed most is not a supervisor who holds all the marbles, calls all the shots, and acts as an independent monarch. Instead, employees need leadership that allows for more expression of ideas, greater risk-taking, and better appreciation of the unique personalities and skills possessed by each worker. They don't need a supervisor who is rigid taskmaster, but rather a leader who is strong yet sensitive, decisive yet open, assertive yet fair. Today, an increasing number of organizations see the potential advantages of having more frontline workers involved with growing the company. Although different companies may define employee involvement somewhat differently and use various means to obtain it, many employee involvement efforts involve the formation of natural work teams. The term natural refers to the way workers are divided into groups. In most organizations, employees are categorized by the type of work they perform. We usually refer to these categories as departments. The accounting department is recognized as performing work processes associated with accounting, such as collecting money or paying bills. The nursing department is involved with efforts and concerns that are mostly identified with nursing. Now, in some departments, the number of people may be so large as to make it cumbersome to engage all the employees in a team-like effort. There is no magic number for team membership, but having 8 to 11 individuals on a team typically makes the team very effective. Therefore, departments with an employee count of 15 or more might search for the natural boundaries that separate some of the department's work processes. These boundaries, usually determined by employees' roles and responsibilities, also demarcate the natural work teams. The purpose of subdividing a department into natural work teams is not to put barriers between groups of people, but to engage more people in the department's decision-making and improvement efforts. It is our opinion that building natural work teams is the leading approach to involving employees in the workplace and to growing an organization for a successful future. As employee involvement efforts take on team-like dynamics, supervisors must have the skills necessary to build and grow teams. Frontline leaders will recognize the difference between a group of people and a real team. They will actively grow their team, understanding the stages every team will experience, and knowing how to develop individuals into members of a high-performance work team. Supervisors of 21st century caliber realize that leading their workers to experience success is just as important as anything they can experience personally. Success will be measured not by what the supervisors accomplish, but by what their teams accomplish. Therefore, it is in your best interest to develop the skills you need to lead your group of employees to becoming high-performing work teams. The difference between teams and teamwork. Simply changing the name of your department from the finance department to the finance team, or the maintenance department to the maintenance team, does not guarantee perfect performance or fewer problems. In fact, forcing a group of people to perform as a team can create problems. Teams that lack proper planning, education, and support guarantee nothing. In most instances, when organizations say they want teams, what they really want is teamwork. That is, they want people within a work area to cooperate with one another, to make decisions together, and to work together toward a common goal or objective. In the end, teamwork will gain greater performance results because people are working together rather than independently of each other. The old saying, 2 heads are better than one, is the foundation of teamwork. Most supervisors understand the benefits that result when people work together as a team. Whether you are a supervisor in the credit department of a large retail store, the night supervisor in a hospital emergency room, or the dock supervisor in a bottling facility, you know that having people work together pays greater dividends than having people work against each other. As you seek to build teamwork in your organization, be knowledgeable about what teamwork should look like. Here are a number of characteristics that are often observed when a group of individuals works as a team. shared job duties, crossover of skills, flexibility and substitution, desire to involve everyone, equal sacrifice and commitment, understood and supported overarching purpose, confrontation leading to understanding and change, not to war, a sense of pride, aggressively pursued decision-making, recognition of the benefits of consensus. In order to be successful, you need to encourage and support your frontline employees to work together, to be unified in purpose and action. The word synergy is often associated with teamwork. Why? Because as the people in a group develop an environment of giving and receiving, as they share ideas and develop an openness to working together to get the needed results, their combined action produces results that are greater than they could achieve if each were working alone. Most specifically, synergy is experienced when the people in a group and their supervisor realize the value each individual contributes in terms of skill and experience. After determining the types and levels of skills and experience in the group, the supervisor must then position each individual to contribute his or her particular skill or experience so that the group can accomplish more and better results. As a supervisor, you will be the most responsible for identifying what your employees can and cannot do based on their skills and experience. You will need to consider this information as you decide how to position your people in order to maximize the potential of the group members and to help them work as a team. We've developed an informal assessment to determine the synergy potential of any group of workers. It measures 3 core components of the group and helps leaders determine where to begin the team building process. The 3 components are capability, maturity, and drive. The capability of a group reflects members' effectiveness at using their skills and experience to accomplish work in their area. Maturity reflects group members' effectiveness at making decisions that consider work needs and employees' needs and abilities, and that are sound from a practical and business perspective. Maturity is not reflected by a group that makes decisions based on selfish desires or the most convenient solution. Finally, the drive of a group reflects members' motivation and enthusiasm for learning and achieving greater performance results. The results obtained from this assessment determine the group's S factor, or synergy factor. To help you get started in thinking about your employees' potential for synergy, we've included a sample of this assessment. The sample is a shorter and less detailed version of the actual assessment. See the recommended resources for this chapter. This assessment is subjective. It is based on your opinion alone and does not have any formal validity. No statistical studies have been completed at this time. We offer it as an informal technique you can use to gain a general perspective of the readiness of a group of people to begin working as a team. To complete the short version of the assessment that follows, circle the percentage, 0, 25, 50, 75, or 100, that reflects the level of effectiveness you believe your frontline employees have at this time for each behavior. For example, if you circle 100% for capability, it means you believe your people currently possess all the skills and the experiences they need to work and function as a team. If you circle 0% for capability, it means you believe that your people have absolutely none of the skills or experience needed to begin working as a team. Understanding your S factor. The S factor identifies your employees' overall level of capability, maturity, and drive. 3 factors that greatly influence your employees' ability to succeed as a team, and so it points to the type of role you may need to play. It can also indicate the techniques you will need to use to create synergy among your employees and help them become more team-like in their work habits. The 4 divisions of the S factor scale parallel the 4 stages through which groups of people usually progress as they learn to work together as a team. The stages, in progressive order, are forming, storming, norming, and performing. These 4 stages are discussed by most team training and educational resources. Selected examples of these resources can be found at the end of this chapter. As you read about these 4 team stages, you can use the S factor you derived earlier to project how successful your team will be and what you need to do to move your team forward to the next stage. Merging the S factor and the 4 team stages can make your team building and teamwork easier. For example, you might determine that your employee's S factor indicates that in some respects they are already at an advanced stage of team development, norming or performing. This does not mean that your team will not experience the forming or storming stages. However, we have found that some groups will transition through the first stages faster depending on their capability, maturity, and drive. Your awareness of your team's current capabilities may prepare you to deal with this pattern of development. As your team develops, you will need to take on various roles. At different times, you will be required to act as an organizer, encourager, teacher, enforcer, coach, resource manager, consultant, or guidance counselor. The following sections examine each stage and identify how you can drive your team forward. They also describe the roles you will be likely to adopt at each stage. The forming stage. An S factor of 0% to 25% suggests that your employees need greater individual training and organization. As a team, they are in the forming stage. At this stage, your team requires strict, hands-on leadership, constant education about objectives and role distinctions, and organization in terms of what, where, who, and when for completing work. The structure of your team at this stage is critical. It must be clearly and carefully laid out and reinforced. Most of your employees will resist directions to share their knowledge or their skills with others. This stage demands communication that is clear and specific. Some employees may require a lot of time one-on-one with you to be assured that what is happening is right and best for them and the group. Best supervisory role for forming, organizer and encourager. As an organizer, the supervisor helps employees to understand the new structure or processes that will be created. As an encourager, the supervisor identifies employees who need a personal work of inspiration and motivation. Spend time early in the process with your employees, discussing what a team is, the benefits to them of being personally becoming team members, and why sharing information with the team will make everyone more successful. Teams often have specific roles and responsibilities to be filled: team leader, team recorder, meeting timekeeper, and so on. As a supervisor, you can help your people organize their team, their meetings, and how they process together and how they involve each team member. You will need to spend personal time with individuals, answering questions and encouraging their support and change. Be patient. Some of your people will need time to see the picture of team life and how they fit into it. Create a team organization chart with each member listed by name and team role. Post this chart in a visible area and remind your team of the chart periodically during the meetings. The storming stage. An S factor of 26% to 50% suggests that your team needs continued teaching and direction. Because a team with this score has probably been formed and together for a period of time, the newness of being a team is over. Now, in the storming stage, individuals are beginning to jockey for positions that fit more with their skills and aptitudes. Team members may argue and ask a lot of questions during this stage. They may be inconsistent in accomplishing roles and responsibilities. They may often lose sight of needed objectives and may be tempted to fall back into old patterns for getting their work accomplished. Discipline and accountability problems may surface, often from people who did not have such problems before. In short, at this stage, people tend to challenge the new rules of team conduct, as if to determine how far the rules can be flexed before some level of discipline is applied. Best supervisory roles for storming, teacher and enforcer. The need to teach employees their jobs and roles as a team member never disappears. It would be wise to conduct an informal survey to determine what your employees understand and do not understand about their jobs and roles within the team structure at this stage. If necessary, you should conduct personal training or send employees to a class to learn new skills or techniques. Employees also need to learn from the ground rules of the team-based environment and what the organization expects from them. So in addition to being a teacher, you need to be an enforcer, holding people accountable by applying appropriate discipline. In most situations in which an employee acts or performs poorly, a personal word of instruction or correction from the supervisor will resolve the problem. However, when an employee creates a greater negative situation for himself or herself or the team, The supervisor must rise to the occasion and handle the difficult person quickly. Of course, supervisors always need to follow the recommended corrective action guidelines provided by their organization. Teaching during the stage of team growth can be enhanced by the use of graphs and charts. Posting performance measurements that reflect how well the team is executing its jobs will help focus team members on the team's overall accomplishments. You must also model the behaviors that is required of your team members. For example, it is critical for your team members to ask questions when they do not understand something and to listen. You should exhibit these behaviors during the workday. Through your example, the team members become aware of what positive interaction is like. The norming stage. An S factor of 51% to 75% suggests that your team's structure is probably sound. The norming stage is when the supervisor begins to see team members perform and function as expected. There is a normalcy to team meetings. During this stage, teams experience a greater amount of success in solving problems, disagreement between members is handled with civility, and most members begin to look out for each other. The supervisor begins to witness the team thinking about planning for greater coverage and cross-learning among the team members. The team accepts the challenge of taking on greater responsibilities and pushes the supervisor to secure needed resources for its continued success. What the team really needs during this stage is an overseer who watches for the needed adjustments and then supports the actions needed to make the adjustments. Best supervisory roles for norming: coach and resource manager. At this stage, your greatest value to the team is as a coach and refiner of the team's performance and as a resource manager. Coaching individuals means making suggestions to each member about minor performance adjustments he or she needs to make. The supervisor will also find it easier at this stage to delegate decision-making, to a degree based on the team's understanding of facts and costs. Coaching also involves allowing the team to make mistakes and then to problem solve on its own to correct the mistakes. Part of the supervisor's efforts during the stage is to recognize and reward good team effort and performance. Recognizing the positive efforts made by team members will confirm for them what is expected and needed if they are to continue to form a strong team. A team in this stage also requires its supervisor to be a good finder of needed resources such as information, tools, equipment, money, and time. Exert strong leadership with clear communication and your team will experience success. Go for it. The performing stage. An S factor of 76% to 100% suggests that your team is functioning well and positioned to respond to new opportunities. During the performing stage, a team will take on more of the daily responsibilities once fulfilled by the supervisor. At this stage, the team is disciplined to solve work-related problems, contribute to the creation of a budget, and develop more challenging goals and objectives. Performing stage teams recover from failure faster and with less cost in terms of time and money. The team at this stage is very close to being self-managed. This provides the supervisor with the opportunity to be more involved with consulting to the team, providing guidance and counseling on an as-needed basis. Best supervisory roles for performing: consultant and guidance counselor. At this stage, you will provide your employees the opportunity to expand their skills and responsibilities without a lot of effort from you. You will play the role of an internal consultant as you move about the team, identifying needs and then meeting them. You are on call to the team, planning and strategizing with team members about the future. Taking the role of consultant will allow you to build your own skill base and become more involved with company projects beyond your immediate area of responsibility. You will also take the role of guidance counselor, finding many opportunities to encourage and direct each employee's skill or career advancement objectives. This is where who you know, rather than what you know, pays the biggest dividends. If you have networked with many other supervisors by this time, inside and outside your organization, you will be more credible and valued as a supervisor. The role of guidance counselor may be one of the most fulfilling roles you play as you open the door to greater achievement and experiences for your employees. The next chapter discusses coaching skills further, and much of chapters 5, 6, and 7 support the skills that are especially important during the storming stage of team life. Chapters 8, 9, and 10 describe the supervisory skills you will need to be a consultant to your team in the performing stage. This chapter now turns to skills that will assist you as you lead your employees through the first stage of team development, forming.